Welcome, everyone, to It Tastes Different Appetizers. And what are we going to talk about tonight? The cooling off of the gaming industry, or so everyone says. We just got a little bit of news about Microsoft laying off about 1,000 employees, and some of that even hitting some of their Xbox divisions. There's been some Twitter stuff going around, people that work there saying they were let go, or people on their team were let go. But their Studio Alpha has been confirmed to losing pretty much a good chunk of its team. That was the studio that was developing military, commercial war game simulations, which they have stopped doing, from my understanding. That studio, that little military focused studio, has been shut down for a while. They've just been doing different things with that team, but a good chunk of that team has now been let go. And the company is basically touting it as, they need to prepare. Basically, they said, like all companies, we evaluate our business priorities on a regular basis and make structural adjustments accordingly. They will continue to invest in their business and hire in key growth areas in the year end. It's kind of a bad look for them, especially because they just spent billions with a B on trying. Well, they haven't spent it yet, but they have basically laid out the funds to try to acquire Activision, right? The gaming studio is what it really looks bad on. If you're letting people go in your gaming studios after you just announced not too long ago that you're trying to acquire a billion-dollar studio, multi-billion-dollar studio, that looks kind of bad on you. But lots of people have been saying that the gaming industry is going through a cool down, where they're but there's not a whole lot that's showing that that's happening, right? They're still making money. Microsoft is still making money. They're not they've lost a little bit on their share price over the last year, but not enough that most people are even worried about that type of stuff. And I think the number was like 1,000 people were laid off. That's across all of their companies, not just the gaming side of the studios. It's not the first time they've done that this year, right? They laid off a good chunk of them, earlier in the year. So it's a big corporation. They probably lay off a lot more than anybody thinks, because it's just not major news. It's only really major news now is because it hit some of the gaming studios, in my opinion, and they're in a spending spree in the gaming studios, so they're buying developers, and there's even some rumors about them trying to buy a Japanese development studio. So if you can spend almost $70 billion on a studio, why are you laying off so many people in your gaming market rather than reappropriating those people that for a shuttered studio into different areas and arms of your studios? It's not a good look, in my opinion. I recognize that it's pretty much the norm for a company as big as Microsoft. You probably shouldn't do a whole lot of that in a year that you announce a almost $70 billion acquisition. But that's just my thoughts. What do you think, Nick, about this 1,000 people layoff at Microsoft after a $70 billion acquisition attempt?
Not surprising. That's corporations for you, right? People got to remember, corporations are not your friend. They're there to make a profit. That's their one and only goal. So they'll lay off and hire whoever they want to in order to achieve that goal of making more money than the last year, right? That's basically, and this goes for Microsoft and as well as Sony and all those other publishers, there are developers and corporations out there, right? They do this all the time. So it's not unsurprising, and you're correct. You're probably right in the fact that they lay off people all the time. It's just you're getting into these gaming divisions that they've laid off some people from, and it's like, you just tried to pay $70 billion. Like, why can't you, what was the purpose of laying these people off, and you couldn't just move them around? But again, corporations don't give a crap about you. They don't care about you. You are nothing to them other than a worker bee who can be let go at any moment, right? All they care about is acquisitions and making more money. But Blizzard, Activision Blizzard's going to make them more money, whereas John down in Alpha Team is not. And so John can be let go. And that's how they look at it, right? They don't know it's John. It's just worker A. Pretty much number 50 568, you're let go. And it sucks. It works that way, right? But that's what happens when you let corporations run amok. They just don't care about you as a person, and as these 1,000 people. But then it is big corporations. They hire. I mean, Microsoft probably has like 100. I think I saw like 180,000 employees or something like that. I can't remember the size, but it's pretty large amount of employees. So it's a drop in the bucket as far as the amount of employees that they got let go, right? It's not like half their workforce or anything like that, but it still sucks for those individuals. And I think, for any corporation, it's better to look at avenues to move people to different sectors of the environment of the corporation than to just let them go, right? That's always a bad look for any corporation. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that it is in the news this time just because you have some people from the Xbox division and their alpha team and stuff like that were let go. So, but it is what it is. I don't think gaming's in a downturn. It could be at a, it's still making profit, right? I mean, maybe it's turned down a little bit as far as its profit making. We're past the COVID time, right? Where a lot of people were playing video games and buying gaming stuff. So I think the market's just stabling back out, right? For the gaming. Gaming had a boost during that time. And people were thinking, oh, this is the new norm. Well, no, and then it goes down. They're like, oh, it's in a recession. It's going down. Oh, what's happening? It's cooling off. No, it's just going down back to the people, because now people can go out and do whatever they want. So those gamers that did buy consoles and video games during that time that aren't, they're not big into gaming, but they wanted something to do. Now they can go back out to the movies and back out to sporting events and parks and various things like that. So now they're not buying them like they were during COVID when we were all locked down in our houses, right? So yeah, it's not a cooling off. It's just a leveling out, really, I think. So it's just leveling out to back where it was.
Yep, it's a readjustment in the market, right? I mean, as you said, COVID, people are stuck in the house and now they're not. So those people who only were playing games because they had no other alternative don't necessarily do that. And not to mention, it's been a bad year for games because we've had a lot of AAA titles push out into next year that were promised this year, that were promised from last year. So lots of pushes. So there's going to be a slowdown. And I believe Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony have all reported missed earnings expectations in the last July and early August earnings calls. So they've all had to readjust expectations and change their earnings because, yeah, I mean, you don't have games pushing your hardware because you can't put out a game when you say it's going to be delivered. Of course, you're going to have a slowdown. And at a time when inflation's high, people's purchasing power isn't as high, right? You've lost your purchasing power. So now people aren't spending as much on games. Games are going to be affected regardless of what people want to think about it. They are, but not as bad as what everybody thinks. I mean, overall, Microsoft stock is up, but for the last year, it is down. I believe we started this year. I believe when we started this year, Microsoft stock was like 334 and 335 a share, maybe. And now we're down to, now it's back down like $242. But, you think about that over the course of 5 years, Microsoft's max, I believe, was at $343 a share. And back in 2020, they were only 183. So over a multi-year, 5-year term, they're ahead of the game. But any of those people that bought in on the uptick of like $336, $340 a share, they lost some money, right? And that's all happened in the last year. And I think perfect storm of event. The pandemic really hurt the gaming industry because developers aren't pumping out stuff as fast as they're used to it with people being in the office. And so do with that what you will, say what you will, whether that's an aspect of development studios not knowing how to manage their people remotely or people not doing as much work remotely in the gaming industry. It is what it is at that point. I can't tell you why they're pushing stuff left and right in the gaming industry. I have no clue, but me as a gamer, I have noticed that, and us as a group have noticed that. I mean, we've been promised some games for the last 2 years, and every time we get close to the live date, it pushes out 3 months, 6 months, or a year. And that just keeps happening. We're expecting so many games this year that just said, oh, we're going to push it out to first or second quarter or forbid third or fourth quarter of 2023. It's just the nature of what's going on right now. And it's hurting all of them, because if you don't have games driving your consoles sales, what are you going to do? Right. You have to rely on your game studios. Well, guess what? Your game studios aren't pumping out any games. So people are not buying if you're not producing. So I don't know. I don't know where they would expect these revenue dollars to come from if they can't produce a commodity for us to purchase.
Yeah, true. And also, what's hitting purchasers and consumers out there is them trying to sell $70 games this time around, right? I mean, not everybody, but still, we have some publishers trying to put games out for $70. And so that $10 increase, which may not seem much to the publisher, is a lot to the individual. And so, that could hurt the industry as well. Because, inflation and, people's pay, minimum wage hasn't gone up in years and things like that. And things are getting more expensive, right? It's not just video games getting more expensive, but everyday items. Go to the grocery store and try to buy a gallon of milk now. It's expensive compared to what it used to be, right? Everything's expensive, but you still get paid the same. It's not working out right. So a lot of people, I think, are just, it's going to affect a lot of things, because a lot of people are going to just start saving their money other than purchasing things, because they don't have so much free money anymore, right? Because things are just getting too expensive to buy. And that's happening in the gaming market and in every other market, right? But yeah, so these layoffs, they do suck, and it's a crappy time to see something like that, especially when these corporations are buying having these expensive acquisitions. But again, the corporations, they don't look at it as, they don't look at their individual employees and think of, what should we do best for them? It's what's best for the corporation, what's going to make us more profit. And buying Activision Blizzard and laying off 1,000 employees is nothing, right? To Microsoft or any other sort of corporation out there. It's just a normal thing. You're never safe in your job environment, no matter what. And even if you're the greatest worker there ever was, they could still lay you off the next day, right? Because it's all about profits. That's the bottom line. We got to make more money. So if we need to let go 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people, we'll do that to make ends meet, even though we have billions upon billions of dollars already.
Right. We're raking it in. Yeah. I mean, that's true, because, there's plenty of companies out there who tout employees first, but that's really not true, right? If you're a publicly traded company, shareholders are always first, followed by their customers, then followed by an employee, right? They're going to take those shareholders and try to make them money first, so they keep their money invested with that company. And then they're going to worry about their customers to make sure their customers are satisfied, so they stay with the company. But you as an employee are just, I hate to say this, but you are just a number. You are a drop in the bucket, because if you leave, or forbid that you die or get hurt or something like that, there's another person waiting in line to replace you, unfortunately, and the companies, they may not, the people that you work with or the people in the management team may not have that same viewpoint, but in the end, it doesn't matter what viewpoint they have. It's the company, because they're not going to leave that. If they need that position and you vacate it, they're going to replace you. Or if they don't need you, they're going to get rid of that position. And if you happen to be the one sitting in that position, it's unfortunate collateral. Some companies will take care of them. We don't know if Microsoft gave all these people severance packages or not. We don't have any of the clue. Layoffs doesn't mean that they just came in the door and said, get the hell out to 1,000 employees. They may came in and they said, we're offering severances packages to you guys. Unfortunately, we have to let you go, but we're giving you something, to help hold you over while you look for another job or something like that. You never know. None of those details are published and things like that. But, that's just the way it is. And unfortunately, if you're in a large corporation that's publicly traded, that's your pecking order. You are at the very most third in the pecking order, at the very most, unfortunately. So it's just sad news that anybody has to lose their job, and especially in this country, because there is no continuing wage. There's some countries out there that have wages that continue, that you're paid a minimum wage by the government, whether you have a job or you don't. And if your job's not paying you, then the government sets a minimum wage you have to be paid. We set a minimum wage that has to be paid if you're hired, but it's really low in this country. And if you lose said job, there's some unemployment, but it's really not meant to do anything besides keep you from starving to death. If it's not going to pay your mortgage, it's not going to pay your rent, it's not going to pay your car payment. It's really just to keep you from starving to death yourself. It's not your family. But Microsoft's no different than any other large corporation. They got to look out for their shareholders, their bottom line, their customers, and then their employees. At 180 to 200,000 plus employees, it equates to less than 1% when they lay off 1,000 employees, which is no justification for this. But the gaming, it's a bad look for their gaming, especially in the gaming industry segment of Microsoft. I mean, it's just the nature of everything. You have to have something driving your product, driving consumers to your product. And right now, the gaming industry has none of that. We have not had very many AAA titles this year. We've not had any titles really that are outside of the indie market. And the indie market doesn't drive console sales. It doesn't drive hardware sales. Nobody's going out buying a brand new video card or computer to play that latest indie title. They're going out and buying that new console because they want to play that latest and greatest AAA game that their old computer wouldn't play, right? Because if we're being honest, indie games aren't that intensive, CPU, graphics, or memory. They're just making really fun games that are playable on a lot of older equipment because they're not graphically intense. They're not memory intensive. They're not CPU intensive. They're just, low end games built by a couple of people or 10 people or something like that pretty much play on everything you own, All right. Well, Nick, what do you think, man? You got anything else on this topic about Microsoft letting some of their people go, even in their gaming arm, after trying to spend $70 billion?
No, not that's already said. I mean, it is what it is. We've talked about it. Corporations see you as a number, and that's about it. So, yeah, you're third in line. You're the weakest link on that chain. So, and it's unfortunate, but that's just how, for right now, in our day and age, that's just how it is.
Awesome. Yep. All right. Let us know what you guys think. How does this make Microsoft appear to you guys after trying to spend $70 billion for an acquisition and then laying off employees in the gaming, especially in the gaming industry? Let us know what your thoughts are. If you're not a subscriber to our channel and you've made it this far, why not subscribe? Help us out. You've made it to the end, because now we're just closing out this bad boy. So, make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. If not, drop us comments. We like interacting with everybody that drops comments. If you got fired from Microsoft or laid off from Microsoft, let us know what your plans are. Are you looking for another job in the gaming industry? Or are you looking to try to get out of a volatile industry at this time of this venture in your life? Let us know. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we hope to see you in the next one.